Oh, hello. I'm back with another video, which I'm calling the Teams of Kill Team. I'm going to talk a little bit about the different kinds of teams in Kill Team, what the big differences are between them, and where you can actually find the rules. So, there are three places where we can find rules for different kill teams. Well, I suppose technically there are five places, but I've grouped them into three categories. So we got the Kill Team Compendium, which is probably the easiest to understand. It's a standalone book. You can buy it off the shelf. I'll talk more about the Compendium in a little bit, but it's a lot like, if you remember when Warhammer 40,000 8th edition launched and you could buy the indexes and they had lots and lots of army lists in, that's really what the Compendium does for you. You've got two teams that have been issued in White Dwarf. White Dwarf 468 has the Adeptus Mechanicus kill team, and White Dwarf 469 has the Thousand Suns kill team. For a little while, we hoped that there would be a new kill team in every White Dwarf, but the previews are out for White Dwarf 450, and it looks like that does not contain a new kill team. And then, of course, you got the two supplements from inside the two big boxes that have been released so far, Kill Team Octarius and Kill Team Chalnath. If you look at the board, if you look at the slide, you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher. But if you look at the slide, I've thrown a Excel up for you, which basically will tell you all the different 40k races and the Compendium kill team, as well as any bespoke kill team that they might have. So the 40k race names, just for interest's sake, I took all the race names from the Games Workshop website. The Compendium names are taken from the Kill Team Compendium, and I don't know, I've been looking at this, I don't know if there's some kind of secret code, there's something really interesting going on here in the, the Space Marines kill team is called the Space Marine kill team, and the Grey Knight kill team is called the Grey Knight kill team. But the Sisters kill team is called the Ecclesiarchy kill team, and the Adeptus Mechanicus kill team is called the Forge World kill team, and the Chaos Space Marines kill team is called the Traitor Space Marine kill team. Now, some of these could be foreshadowing changes in 40k, so the Adeptus Custodes in 40k have now kind of become the Talons of the Emperor again. In 40k, they've got Sisters of Silence back in their book. Maybe they're going to rebrand Chaos Space Marines as Traitor Space Marines. I don't know. But some of the changes seem really strange. So, Drukhari are called Comorites. Gene Stealer cults are called Brood Coven. Like, some of these seem quite a stretch. When I was putting this sheet together, I thought that maybe I'd stumbled across something, and that all the ones that had really strange sounding names to their Compendium team might be the ones that are, sort of have a bespoke team in the works. But the Thousand Suns Compendium kill team is called a Thousand Suns kill team, so that's blown that theory out of the water. And then you can see I've slotted in the 6 bespoke kill teams. So these are the ones that are featured in either White Dwarf or in one of the supplement books. We've got the Sisters Novitiates, the Adeptus Mechanicus Hunter Clade, the Veteran Guardsman, the Thousand Suns Warp Coven, the Orc Commandos, and the Tau Pathfinder team. So, what makes a bespoke team, and what makes a compendium team a compendium team? Well, on a very obvious mechanical level, bespoke teams are bespoke. They have miniatures, or in the case of the Tau Pathfinders, components for some of their miniatures, which were designed for kill team. And that gives you the ability to have more specialized operatives and a more granular way of building your team. Now, that's not the case for the two bespoke teams that were published in White Dwarf, but I'm still lumping them in with bespoke, even though they use existing models. They have tried really hard to invent more specialized operatives. The Mechanicus Diktat springs to mind just by looking at the components that are available on the sprue and trying to work out how they could get you to assemble a model to make one look special or interesting. So in general, the bespoke teams have more specialized operatives. They have a more granular team building. They generally have this idea that you're going to have a team of 10, and then there are various ways around changing that. So you have 10 slots. So Orcs teams are 10 strong. And Sisters teams are 10 strong. The Imperial Guard team is 10 strong unless they use their ancillary support rule to get an extra 4 guardsmen. The Pathfinder team, I think, is 10 strong unless they trade some of their slots to get drones that cost 2 slots. And the Thousand Sons have a similar thing going on where they can trade some of their slots, which they would use for Zangors, to get Thousand Sons Marines that take up 2 slots. But you've got this slot-based way of building up your team. You have, as I touched on in a previous video, you've got the special operations rules, the rules for narrative play. I think the rules for narrative play have really been overlooked as a big benefit of the Bespoke teams over the Compendium teams. I think a really massive reason that people aren't playing much narrative kill team at the moment is simply because not enough of the Bespoke kill teams have their Spec Ops rules yet. Or rather, not enough races, I should say, have their Bespoke kill team with its Spec Ops rules. Okay, and because there's been a lot of argument I'm going to touch on in a minute about some people think, as I tend to believe, that the Bespoke teams are eventually going to totally eclipse the Compendium teams. There have been a couple of YouTube videos that have got it from different creators recently saying, you know, Compendium is totally valid and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I'm really enjoying playing with the Compendium. I think that's great. I really do. I think that's a real testament to the balance of the game that many of the Compendium teams are still considered to be really powerful. But I think for narrative play, we're not talking about power anymore. We're talking about flavour. And undoubtedly, the Bespoke teams have more flavour, right? They have those pages and pages of special operations rules. And 40k, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's my YouTube channel. I'll do what I like. 40k is in a really similar spot, right, with Crusade. Crusade looks really, really fun. But one of my main opponents is my wife, and she really enjoys Chaos armies, Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Knights, and they simply don't have, they haven't been any Chaos sort of codexes at all for 40k, so she hasn't got any of those really narrative and interesting rules for Crusade, so we don't play it, despite the fact that it looks really interesting, and it's the same for Kill Team. You also get your faction tac ops, so just because I'm aware there'll be some people who might be watching this that haven't played very many games of Kill Team or aren't really sure what it's about. In Kill Team, you have to select one of your factions available tactical objectives deck. It's a deck of 6 cards, and all the Bespoke Kill Teams have the opportunity to swap between 0 and 3 of those cards for their faction tac ops cards of their choice, which are a bit more flavorful. Think of them as being like the secondary objectives in the codices in 40k, and you still might not get them because there's still the random mechanic of shuffling your 6 cards, and then you draw them in pairs and you pick the one that you want, so you end up with 3. They might not be the 3 that you'd prefer out of the 6, but it lets you literally stack the deck a little bit more in your favour in terms of towards the things that your team is able to actually achieve. You also get what I've kind of slightly cruelly called a gimmick, right? But all of the Bespoke teams have, to a greater or lesser extent, some kind of gimmick. So the Sisters team has the much talked about faith points, which really looking forward to my first game with them on Friday. It looks like a really, really strong mechanic. I'm really looking forward to that reliability. The Tau Kill team have marker lights, which again looks like a pretty powerful and strong mechanic. The Warp Coven have Tzeentch boons. That looks pretty powerful. The Imperial Guard have their ancillary support, so they can either have an off-board artillery strike, or they can have 4 extra guardsmen to go up to 14 men. The Commandos, weirdly, only have this one little rule called Throat Slitters, which is just a sentence, but it does mean that they can charge out of a conceal order, which, while not rich and flavourful and complicated, is a pretty powerful extra rule. And the Adeptus Mechanicus have their Doctrina Imperatives, which work really similar to their sort of psalms that they have in 40k, so they can choose at different times to have a different army-wide buff. Okay, so if you're playing a Bespoke team, you've got your gimmick, you've got your extra tac ops, you've got some narrative rules, you've got more specialised operatives, and you've got this granular 10 sort of slot team building exercise. On the other side, the Compendium teams, I mean, by and large, they're simpler to play because they don't have those things. And to make them balanced, and most of them are balanced, individually your models will be a lot more powerful in terms of their stats. They'll have bigger numbers on the card and less special rule text. And they also have the fire team mechanic, which is a blessing and a curse. So most of the Compendium teams are built by taking 2 fire teams from your choices. So, for example, if you're doing a Dark Eldar, or I should say a Comorite, kill team, you can take a fire team of Cabalite warriors and a fire team of witches, or you could take 2 fire teams of witches, or you could take 2 fire teams of Cabalite warriors, and each one kind of you build up as like a demi kill team, right? And then you can put them together, so you can have your kill team have kind of 2 flavors to it. Now, the big exceptions to that are the Space Marines and the Harlequins. The Harlequins, because they only have one kind of thing, Harlequin troops and Harlequin troops, so you just pick one. And the Space Marines are pretty interesting. Space Marines are in a pretty poor place, actually, in Kill Team at the moment. So the Space Marines can only pick one fire team, and that's supposed to be their entire kill team. And Space Marines are extremely easy to play. And if I was teaching somebody their very first intro game, I would be tempted to break out like intercessors or assault intercessors and play a Space Marine fire team versus another Space Marine fire team. So you could really focus on the mechanics of like whether you want to be on engage or conceal, or how line of sight works, things like that. But there's just not enough to the Space Marines, which is really strange. I'm going off on a side ramble, but it's really strange for a Games Workshop game that the Space Marines aren't front and center as one of the most powerful things in the game. So here's where I want to have a bit of speculation about the future. And there's a load of products on the screen from Warhammer Community, where I've sort of borrowed various images in order to comment on them. We know that there are some products coming because they teased them at Gen Con and then they've kind of disappeared. I really don't know what's going on with Games Workshop at the moment, because they teased these ages ago, it seems like, at Gen Con, and they're still not for sale. And then they teased, or what was it, the Red Harvest, right, the Warcry box, and then the very next week after it was teased, it was up for pre-order, and people are getting their copy on Saturday if Warcry's their jam, right? But these things are coming. So you're going to have a starter set, which is basically a cut down version of the Octarius box. You can go and look at the article if you're curious, but what I find really interesting about the starter set is that's coming with like a miniature pocket core rules manual, which actually looks pretty cool, and I might try and pick one up off of eBay for taking to events and things. And a little Recruit Edition book. We don't really know what's in the Recruit Edition book. The article says that it's got like starter scenarios and things in. But what it probably doesn't contain, from reading the article, is the actual rules for the Orc Commandos and the Veteran Guardsmen. And likewise, we know that the Commandos and the Veteran Guardsmen are coming out in their own box sets. They're pictured over there on the right-hand side. And again, there's a big question about where the rules are going to come from. Maybe there's going to be some sort of insert in the box. I don't know. But I have a theory, and that's why I've put the Kill Team Annual 2019 here. Now, it was really funny. It was called the Kill Team Annual 2019. To my knowledge, they only ever made one, so it's not really an annual. But I think they're going to end up collating a lot of the rules for things that they've put out into a book. And this is not a new idea. A lot of people have said this. This seems pretty obvious to a lot of people. Oh yes, they'll eventually collate all the teams from White Dwarf into a book. But here's where I want to say something I've not had anybody else said. Is it possible that the annual for Kill Team 21 is going to come out pretty soon? Because I can't see how they release the products on the screen that they've already said they've already previewed. I can't see how they release those products without having the rules available in print somewhere. And my wife goes to the local Games Workshop quite often, in town, because she's home during the day. And she told me that she'd overheard somebody coming in and saying, "Oh, to the manager, oh, have you got a copy of the White Dwarf with the Thousand Sons kill team rules in?" Bearing in mind that is the current issue of White Dwarf. Now it sold all of them, didn't have any more left. And so that's another set of rules. Now, I know that you can go on the internet and look around places and you can find where kind people have broken international copyright law on your behalf and scan these things in, and then you can download them, and that's fine. But that doesn't seem like it'll be good enough for Games Workshop. I think they'll want to have those rules in print somewhere. So I wonder, if you look at the two Octarius teams and the two White Dwarf teams, and the two Chalnath teams, that's 6 teams. Maybe if they throw in 1 or 2 more that are new, right? I mean, it would be a really good place to put out rules for the Euclidean Star Striders and the Galapox Infected. You've got the makings of a book there. You could put in, you know, the kit we talked about Vertigus yesterday in the terrain video. You could put sort of actual kill zone rules in for Verticus. You could put in a set of narrative campaigns using the Verticus terrain with maps, and you could tell people, you know, if you want to play these games, these are the boxes, these are the 40k branded terrain boxes that you buy, and you build the things and put them in together. You could put in some fun things for narrative games. You know, they usually put something in like, you know, I think in the annual 2019 they had some rules for letting you fight a big beast from Blackstone Fortress, the dreaded Amble, that's the fella. So they could put in things like that, but I think it could come really soon. Maybe, I'm not sure if this is a British tradition, but annuals and things are usually a Christmas thing, right? It's a thing that people in this country do at Christmas. They will get, you know, Beano annual, Private Eye annual, whatever it is, but it's kind of old-fashioned. But maybe that's something they're going to seek to riff off, and maybe we'll see a new book release for Kill Team sooner than you think. Now, this is not a rumour. This is not, I have zero inside information. This is just me ruminating on things, and I'm trying to piece together what makes sense to me. But it's really hard to predict Games Workshop's shipping and release schedule at the moment. It seems, as I say, Red Harvest came out of nowhere. I've actually seen a copy of their Christmas pamphlet, right? And it seems like Dungeon Bowl's going to be coming out really soon as well. So, no, there's no mention of a Kill Team annual in that, but stranger things have happened. So, just to sum up, because apparently I've nearly talked for 20 minutes again, I don't know how that happens. My own feeling on what is a pretty emotive issue, actually, for a lot of people, is that I think that the bespoke teams are going to turn out to be better, probably. I think that if you pick up a bespoke team and you play lots and lots and lots of games with it, and you master that bespoke team, that's probably how you become really good at Kill Team. But I think that you want to play your first 6 to 10 games with a Compendium team, because I think you want to people learn best, right, chunking it down a bit at a time. So if you try and pick up a team where you're thinking about what I called the gimmick last time, you're thinking about the faith points or the chaos boons or which Canticleer the Omnisci you should have activated, that sort of thing, then it's going to make it difficult for you to pick up the fundamentals. But I think once you've picked up the fundamentals, you've learned the fundamentals while fielding a Compendium team, you then probably want to move on to a bespoke team. And this was certainly my philosophy. I knew that in this edition, last edition, I mained Dark Eldar. There's my Dark Eldar kill team, or at least a version of it on the screen now. Last edition, I mained Dark Eldar. This edition, I really knew I wanted to have as my main team Resistance of Battle, so I played the Compendium team. I didn't change and decide to play the Death Corps of Krieg, even though they look cool. I've got 2 sets of them waiting to be built, but I'm stuck with the Sisters. The Adeptus Mechanicus team came out in White Dwarf, could have easily pivoted to them. Stuck with the Sisters. Chalnath was announced, and now I'm going to pivot to the Novitiates. And unless they're really truly awful, which I don't believe from reading the rules they are, I'm going to stick with them now and really try and master them. I think that's the way to go. One final thing I want to touch on is the internal balance in the Compendium is weird. There are a lot of Compendium teams. I do not mean to say that a Bespoke team will always win. I do not mean that at all, because there are a lot of Compendium teams that do really, really well. The first Warhammer World Tournament was obviously Custodes, I think, first, second, and third, at least first and second. And now they've copped a big nerf in the FAQ since then. And in the second Warhammer World Tournament, it was Orc Commandos, top 4. But I still think that there are Compendium teams that can do really well. I think Dark Eldar is probably one. I think Harlequins is almost certainly another. But there are other Compendium teams that I just can't see I can't see the play with them. Craftworld Eldar, can't see it. Greenskins, can't see it. And weirdly, Space Marines. And I include the Demon Hunters, the Death Watch, in that, right? The Alien Hunters, sorry, yeah, Death Watch. In that, I don't understand how they can. It's very strange, I should say, that Games Workshop would let the Space Marines have kind of a background role and not take centre stage. So, that's about it. That's enough rambling from me for today. I am going to try and come back tomorrow with another video. I know that on Friday, or possibly Saturday, depending on how long it takes me to sort it out, I plan to come out with a battle report. So I've got a friend of mine coming around after work on Friday. We're going to play some Kill Team. I'm going to try, as soon as I finish recording this, I'm going to go back to painting my novitiates. I'm going to try and field the novitiates, and I think he's probably bringing up commandos, but I don't know. So that will be coming up Friday or the weekend. Have a video in mind to do, talking actually about hobby stuff, about paint, and then if I can think of some other things to put up, I will in the interim. But thank you for listening. Please leave me a comment. I really enjoy reading comments. I really enjoy getting viewer feedback, and then liking and subscribing. I mean, that's that's nice as well. But as I say, the important thing to me is the comment. All right. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a brilliant rest of your day, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Cheerio.